In this lesson, you're going to be able to add and subtract mixed numeral fractions. So this is part of your fractions, decimals, and percentages chapter, which is chapter 3. So looking at this question, you've got two different fractions. So the question is asking you to sort of add these two fractions. Now the first step is you need to have a look at the bottom number, which is your denominator. So in this case, you can see that the bottom number is the same. You've got 1 over 7, so the 7 is my denominator. And in the second fraction, you've got 3 over 7. So both of those numbers are the same. So if your denominators are the same, you can actually just go ahead and carry out with your addition or subtraction. So I'm going to get 1 over 7 plus 3 over 7, which gives me 4 over 7. Now you've got two numbers next to them because this is an mixed numeral fraction. So I'm going to add those two big numbers as well. 3 plus 1, which gives me 4. So at the end, you get 4 over 7. Now in this question here, this is again a mixed fraction, a mixed numeral fraction. Now what you'll notice is that the bottom two numbers are different. So in that first fraction, you've got 17, 5 over 7. And in the second fraction, you've got 4, 1 over 2. So both of them have a different number at the bottom. You've got 7 as your first denominator, and 2 is your second denominator. So in that case, if you have two different fractions, we've got different denominators, you need to actually first convert it back to your improper fraction. Now by improper fraction, we mean when you have just one number at the top and one at the bottom instead of that number that you have there at the left. So you're going to convert that into an improper fraction. Now, what that means is you need to get your bottom number, your denominator, and times it by the number on your left. So in this case, your number at the bottom is 7, and the big number next to it is 17. So if I times 7 by 17, it's going to give me a result of 119. Okay, so your first step is you times your bottom number by your number on the left. Then the next thing you need to do is you need to get that number and you need to add it by your top number. So in this case, you have 119, you're going to add it by 5, which gives me 124. So all you do is 7 times 17, which is 119. Then you add 5 towards it to get 124. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing to my fraction on the right. Okay, so you've got 2 times 4. So you times the bottom number by the number on the left, which gives me 8. And then you get that result and then you add the number at the top. So I times 4 by 2 gives me 8. And then I'm going to add the top number, which is 1, which gives me 9. So if you go back to that, my first number was 124. And the denominator will stay the same. Okay, so it's staying the same and that's still 7. And I'm going to add it with my second fraction, which is 9 from converting into that number, 9, and the bottom number will be the same, which is 2. So now you've got 124 over 7 plus 9 over 2. So that's my first step. I converted it into an improper fraction. Now once you have done that, you need to actually find your lowest common multiple. So for your denominators. So for the number 7 and 2, the lowest common multiple here in this case is going to be 14. Okay, so I found my lowest common multiple for my denominator. So what I can do is I can put my lowest common multiple at the bottom. So you've got those two fractions with 14 at the bottom as my lowest common multiple. Now to get to 14, I had to times 7 by 2. So I'm going to do the same thing to the 124 at the top. I'm going to times it by 2. And to get to 14 in my second fraction, I times 2 by 7. So I'm going to do the same thing to the top and times it by 7. Okay, so whichever number I multiply the bottom by, I will multiply the top as well. So 124 by 2 gives me 248, and 9 times 7 gives me 63. So now that you have the same numbers at the bottom, you've got your same denominators, I'm going to add 248 by 63, and you get an answer of 311 over 14. So once you've done that, you need to check your answer. So I can see it's 311 over 14. So I need to think, can I simplify this fraction further? Because your answer always needs to be in the simplest form. Okay, so in this case, I actually can simplify it by finding my highest common factor. So I need to think of a number which will be multiplied into both. You can divide it by both to give you the simplest version. So in this case, if you have 311 and 14, your highest common factor is actually 14. You can divide 311 by 14. So if I need to, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to divide 311 by 14. Okay, so that's my highest common factor, which is 22. Okay, so you've got 22. Okay, so now 22 is at the bottom. So what I can do is I can convert it back to a mixed numeral fraction by putting 14 at the bottom, 22 at the top, and I'm going to actually put 3 at the top. So now what you have is if you were to times 14 by 22 and add it by 3, you should get 311 over 14. So I'm going to just double check that. Okay. So 14 times 22 gives me 322. And now 322, I'm going to add 3, which will give me 311, which is my answer.